You're watching NBC 26, where news comes first. And this is NBC 26 News at 6.
Hello, everybody. Our top story today, the wedding of Victoria Murray and Scott Collar. You know, Scott and Vicki met while working at the Fox River Mall. Their relationship continued throughout their college education, with Scott graduating from UW-Madison and Vicki graduating from UW-Whitewater. Scott asked Vicki to be his wife while the two were enjoying a cruise in the Caribbean. A Hawaiian wedding was planned for October 21st in the year 2000. Now, the beautiful island of Maui was selected to be the setting. Slowly but surely, all those wedding plans came together. 23 family members and friends made their way from the mainland all the way to the Hawaiian paradise. Now, before we join everybody for the pre-wedding festivities, let's enjoy some of the sights and sounds of the Hawaiian island of Maui. Okay, now we have just a couple of VO parts for me to read. All right. Did you want me to pause in between each one of these, or just to give you something to okay. Add it with. All right. 3, 2. This is the first one. 3, 2, 1. When you think of Hawaii, you think of the beauty of the ocean. Track 2 and 3, 2, 1. And when you combine ocean and waves, you get surf. And where there is surf, you're sure to find surfers and windsurfers. And 3, in 3, 2, 1. The beauty of Hawaii is not just the ocean. Maui is a lush paradise with dense forests and scenic waterfalls all over the island. And then 4, in 3, 2, 1. Some of the beaches even have black sand that is probably lava remains from dormant volcanoes on Maui. 5, in 3, 2, 1. And what would a trip to Hawaii be without a visit to an authentic Hawaiian luau? And 6, in 3, 2, 1. But enough of the sights and sounds of Maui. Our top story is the wedding of Vicki and Scott. So let's join the couple as they get together with family members of the with members. Okay, this is the second one. In 3, 2, 1. But enough of the sights and sounds of Maui. Our top story is the wedding of Vicki and Scott. Let's join the couple as they get together with members of the wedding party and guests for dinner on the night before the wedding. And 7, in 3, 2, 1. The formal wedding ceremony is over, and now it's time to make sure that everybody signs the marriage certificate to make things nice and legal. And 8, in 3, 2, 1. And once that's done, it's time for wedding pictures. And you know, these, second one, 3, 2, 1. Once that's done, it's time for wedding pictures. And you know, these things seem to go on forever. Okay, and then back on camera. In 3, 2, 1. Well, that's it for our coverage from Maui. And of course, we want to wish Scott and Vicki all the best. Aloha and mahalo. How's that? Great. Yeah, sorry I kept screwing up in the beginning. Sorry, everybody in there. But you know, it's that steak for dinner for you, like.
According to a new study published by the Information Technology Association of America, over 1.6 million new information technology jobs will become available this year alone. The study also identifies technical institutes as one of the best ways to acquire the necessary skills to meet these new career opportunities. ITT Tech. Our focus is on college degrees in technology. ITT Technical Institute, education for the future. To find out more, call 1-800-ITT-TECH or visit us on the web.
Not only is he my best friend, but he's someone I look up to.
He used to depend on us. Now we depend on him.
He's a team player, someone you can count on all the time.
ITT Technical Institute, education for the future. To find out more, call 1-800-ITT-TECH or visit us on the web. Take advantage of our programs in information technology. A more flexible schedule to reach your goals. Call 1-800-ITT-TECH today.
Growing mushrooms has become big business. Tons of them are produced and shipped all over the country all year long. Mushrooms like the Italian portobello, looks like a large hamburger bun, and then the little oyster mushroom, as well as the very well-known button mushroom. And then there's the shiitake, which is actually grown on logs, the way it was done 2,000 years ago in Japan. To the Japanese, this mushroom is almost considered sacred. It was regarded as the king of the mushrooms, or the elixir of life. Not so much for its delicious flavor, but what it could do for one's health. You see, it was believed to slow down the aging process, cure illnesses, and was even consumed as an aphrodisiac. Today, many of these ancient beliefs are being confirmed by modern research, particularly the shiitakes that are grown in the traditional way on logs. These mushrooms are especially fortified with a chemical called lentinan. Now, this chemical is gaining a reputation for its cancer and viral fighting qualities. Of course, all shiitakes are loaded with lots of vitamins and minerals. They're a low-calorie, high vegetable protein, no cholesterol food. Now, next time we'll take a look at how this amazing mushroom is grown. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith. I'm Alan Smith. Let's take a look at why this is regarded as the king of the mushrooms. The shiitake is one of the most fascinating mushrooms to me, not only because it's one of the best things we can eat, but because it literally grows from the side of a decaying tree. They've only been grown in the United States since 1972, but since then, to meet the demand, growers have been popping up like this one all over the country. The process of growing shiitakes begins with a simple hardwood log like this, and oak seems to be the wood of choice. It's always harvested at the coldest time of the year, when the sugars in the sap are the most concentrated. You see, this is what the developing mushroom will feed on. The logs are inoculated with mushroom spawn made up of spores, and this is done by drilling holes in a diamond pattern and filling the holes with the spawn, and then sealing them off with wax. To grow mushrooms, moisture is critical, so the wax helps hold in as much moisture as possible. This creates the optimum environment for the spawn. Over the next 10 months or so, the logs are kept in a shady, moist environment, while these tiny white fibers called mycelia cover the entire log beneath the bark. When the time and conditions are right, usually in the early to mid-fall, the fruiting body or mushrooms appear from the side of the log, and then they're harvested. Growers count on gathering mushrooms from the logs about 4 times a year, and they conservatively figure a pound of mushrooms per log. But actually, in a single fruiting or picking, you can get up to 2 pounds of these beautiful mushrooms. Now, next time we'll take a look at a simple way to prepare these in the kitchen. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith. I'm Alan Smith. This may seem like a funny way to grow mushrooms, but it's been working for over 2,000 years. This is certainly the season for entertaining with lots of good food. And if you're like me, it's also the time of year that many of those better eating habits you've established all year long get thrown to the wind, with so many rich traditional favorites like basted turkey, candied sweet potatoes, and all of those delicious pies. But there are some things you can prepare that are low in calories, but high in nutrition and flavor, like this recipe for sautéed shiitake mushrooms. These mushrooms are particularly flavorful because of the way they're grown. Since time can be such a premium around the holidays, this recipe is ideal because it only takes a few minutes to put together. It starts with about 10 to 12 medium-sized caps like this. And one of the things I've learned in using mushrooms is that they will stay fresh and firmer longer if you'll store them in the refrigerator in a paper sack. To prepare the sauté, just melt about 2 tablespoons of butter in a large saucepan, and then add a couple of tablespoons of chopped onions and a clove or 2 of crushed garlic. Stir over medium heat until the onions are transparent. Now I'm ready for the mushrooms. I've rinsed them, and I'll add them whole to the sauté, along with about a teaspoon of soy sauce. Then I'll cover them for about 2 minutes until they're wilted. At this stage, the aroma is unbelievable. Now just remember, these will cook in no time, so be careful not to overcook them. Shiitakes prepared this way can be the perfect complement to any meal. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith. I'm Alan Smith. It's hard to believe that something that smells this good grows from the bark of a tree. You may be wondering what this guy and all of his friends have to do with gardening. Well, maybe not much, but they are the inspiration for the name of one of my favorite garden plants. This is lamb's ear, and it's easy to see why it's called this. The shape of the leaf looks like a lamb's ear, and it's soft and fuzzy. Now this is one tough little plant. It's actually a hardy perennial, and this time of year it's beginning to go dormant. It's so tough it can withstand even the coldest New England winter. Lamb's ear is considered an herb because it's one of those useful plants, but it was actually used a lot more in the past than it is today. You see, in colonial times and before, it was used as a bandage because the leaves are fuzzy, they're very absorbent. These days, the plant gets more play as an ornamental. Its silvery gray foliage is the perfect contrast to many flowers and other plants in the garden. If you decide to grow lamb's ear, you'll find that it likes well-drained soils and plenty of sun. Now, some varieties will actually put up a tall spike, and these are ideal for using in autumn flower arrangements. But if you cut the spikes, cut them just before the tiny lavender flowers begin to fade. They just seem to hold up better. The leaves of the plant are also used in very creative ways. This little holiday wreath is made by overlapping them, one on top of the other like fish scales, and even the bow is made from leaves. Now, it's been accented with globe amaranth to give it a polka-dotted look. To me, it sort of looks like a 1960s pillbox hat. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith. I'm Alan Smith. Some garden plants take their names from some of the most interesting things. New England is the birthplace of one of my favorite holidays, Thanksgiving. I like it because it's a time to give thanks, and it's centered around one of my favorite activities, eating. So much of the food we enjoy at Thanksgiving is seasoned with fresh herbs from the garden. I suppose if I had to choose one herb that I consider the classic of the season, it would have to be sage. It's been used in cooking around here since the earliest days of this country's history. There's nothing like sage to enhance the flavor of roast turkey as well as stuffings and dressings. Now, the sage most of us know for culinary use is this gray-leafed plant, but there are actually several variations on it, like this tri-colored one with marbleized leaves, and one that has a strong accent of red or burgundy in its leaf and stem. The sages are a big family called the salvias, and beyond those that we eat, there's a whole world of them that are grown mainly for their ornamental qualities, like this one called pineapple sage. I know its flowers don't look like pineapples, but if you could smell it, you would know how it takes its name. It has a distinct pineapple aroma. And if you've ever grown this plant, you know that its scarlet red flowers are very popular with hummingbirds. Another favorite of mine is Mexican sage. I grow it every year for its beautiful velvety purple blossoms. Both Mexican and pineapple sage are only winter hardy in the mildest climates, and unlike their culinary cousins, they're grown to be a feast for the eyes. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith. I'm Alan Smith. Depending on the sage you grow, you can have a feast for your taste buds or your eyes. I'm always looking for ways to extend my gardening season. Every year I try to plant a fall vegetable garden to take advantage of those last few warm days. But even in the mildest climates, temperatures can drop suddenly and cause big problems in the garden. So I'm always looking for solutions. I came up with a simple design for a cold frame that sits right on top of the raised beds in my vegetable garden. If you don't have raised beds, I've found this concept helpful for bringing plants through the winter by setting it on top of bales of straw. The idea here is really simple. It's just taking energy from the sun and warming the soil and air temperatures. This makes the plants very happy. There's really nothing to it. Some 2x4s, plastic, and some concrete reinforcing wire. The first step in putting this together is to build a 2x4 frame. And to save time, I had the boards pre-cut at the lumber yard. This concrete reinforcing wire is strong stuff. It's the key to the support. Now, it can be purchased in standardized rolls and then cut to fit your cold frame. Now, I always try to cut enough to create an arc that's at least 24 inches high at the highest point. This gives me plenty of room for ventilation and enough room to work. I attach the wire with large staples and then secure this 4mm plastic sheeting with smaller staples, and I use a nylon fabric strip to keep it from tearing. Ventilation's important, and you can get this by leaving the ends open or cutting slits in the top. Cold frames are a great way to protect plants and extend the gardening season. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith. I'm Alan Smith. How about a way to enjoy your garden longer? Dutch bulb importers like the John Sheepers Company here in New England are very busy this time of year, distributing flower bulbs for our gardens and for forcing indoors. Probably one of the most popular is the amaryllis for flowering inside during the holidays. But there are some important things to know when selecting these. So I asked Jan Ooms, the president of the company and a direct Dutch descendant of the founder, what he looks for when selecting flower bulbs.
Well, first of all, I look at the size and, and the strain. There's several strains available from Holland, but size is a big thing. And this is a top-size bulb, 34 centimeters circumference. It'll give you 2 stems and sometimes 3 stems.
Really?
And sometimes as many as 6 flowers per stem. So it makes quite a show all by itself.
Now, what about bloom time? Tell me a little bit about that in choosing amaryllis.
In choosing the Dutch-grown amaryllis, to predict when they're going to flower is extremely difficult. Right, we now have 2 types of amaryllis. One comes out of the Dutch greenhouses, and then we have African amaryllis. As you know, in the southern hemisphere, the seasons are just the opposite from ours. So for early flower and dependable early flower, the Africans are the thing to have. And for later flower, into January, February, the Dutch are the thing.
Even though your amaryllis may not bloom right on cue for the holidays, it's still nice to have them around later in the winter when there's not much going on in the garden. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith. I'm Alan Smith. This is probably the most popular bulb during the holidays, but there's some things you want to look for when selecting them. It's hard to believe, but soon we'll all be in that holiday frenzy of trying to find the perfect gift for friends, relatives, and even the boss. But so often they live out of town or even out of state, which can make gift giving a real hassle. If you're like me, the catalogs have been pouring in from mail order sources. And if you're a gardener, you've probably gotten a lot from horticultural companies. These days they carry everything from tools and boots to things for your pets and even living plants. Thanks to speedy delivery and some innovative ways of packaging, you can even send something as beautiful as this mandevilla to someone as a surprise. Now, who wouldn't be pleased to have such a beauty in their home during the holidays? This plant, like so many other tropicals, will continue flowering right through the winter, and I think it's a nice alternative to the traditional poinsettia. The key to keeping blooms coming one after the other is to give the plant plenty of light. You want to make it feel like it's still growing in the summer or south of the equator. If pink or tropical isn't your cup of tea, you might try something like a topiary or an herb, or combine them in an herbal topiary like this little rosemary, or bulbs for indoor forcing. I kind of like these little Mexican heathers with their tiny lavender flowers. All of these plants and many others can take handling, packaging, and shipping. It's an easy way to give a gift from the garden without doing all of that footwork. You just want to make sure you get your order in early. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith. I'm Alan Smith. Take a load off your feet and send a plant through the mail for the holidays.